There's a new trend, haven't you heard? It's called the polka rap, you big turd. Now let's sing it, 1, 2, 3. Except this version's a bit cooler to me. 1, 2, 3. I want to be the best there ever was. To beat all the rest, yeah, that's my cause. Electro, Diglett, Knitter and Mankey, Venusaur, Rattata, Fearow, Pidgey, Seeking, Jolteon, Dragonite, Ghastly, Ponyta, Vaporeon, Poliwrath, Butterfree. Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon, you knew that part, but now there's even more. With all new games, more Pokemon to explore. Gengar, Volipede, Raticate, Toxicroak, Armaldo, Vileplume, Skitty, Sensitone, Kazooie, Snorlax, Milotic, Togepi, Crosso, Go-Gurt, Lucio, Volpeed, Maytang, Herder, Farfetch, Slowpoke, Solrock, Gothorite, Min, and Tympole, Deerling, Aegislash, Sandslash, Steelix, Graveler, Oshawott, Kermbra, Swirlix, Ledyard, Salshark, Shellos, Gabite, Boongus, Duskull, Gulpin, Balonite, Espeon, Mugaja, Thoro, Mewtwo, Clefairy, Larvesta, Moltres, Pumpkaboo, Emolga, Lotad, Hunter, Soado, Paris, Magneton, Duosion, Weavile, Porygon Z, Little Alpha Baby, Articuno, Lantern, Mudgelat, Mudcoal, and Pidgeotto. Wow, that was a lot in one go. How many more? 688? Oh no. Well, whatever. Continue to the next video to see me suffer. And if anything, you'll hear me buffer. Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon! Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Stonesy Reads, where today we are reading 20 pages as normal, and enjoying our time. I'm of course here joined today by me, myself, and I, soldiers right until I die. And of course, we're going to start reading. So let's begin. Everything is going to be okay. After a few moments, Jessica managed to calm her breathing. She licked her dry lips as she settled down. She didn't know what had come over her. She learned to steady her emotions, or at least mask them from others. She couldn't let her emotions erupt like that again. It made her too vulnerable. And when she was vulnerable, she couldn't think straight. She set off toward the cemetery. The wind had picked up and it was blowing her hair wildly. The cemetery had become her sanctuary in the recent months, a quiet, peaceful place. When she stepped into the cemetery, she often stopped to read the headstones to get familiar with the souls who had been laid to rest. She wondered about her own grave and what her stone would read. It was more than likely she would never get a burial. As she strolled through the graves, her mind drifted back to Robert. She hadn't really met the boy, so kind and confident before. If she left herself, she could start to like him, which was not possible now. Maybe in her old life, she should have opened up and having a true friendship, maybe something more. But that all changed the day she made a choice, and each day was going to be the best to make up for that choice. She had a purpose now, and she was sticking to it. She made her way to the farthest and oldest of family crypts. They were admitted among the graves of a small mausoleum made of stone, with dark stained glass windows. Old dried vines covered in the top hung down in the sides of the structure, patched with white cobwebs. She gripped and wrestled the handle and leaned her foot on the bottom of the door, pushing with everything she had in her. The heavy door creaked open and scraped along the floor. Dust particles twirled in the sunlight. She pulled out her small flashlight and stepped inside, and pushed the door closed until she was surrounded by the dark. She switched on the flashlight and walked back to the small enclosure, passing what she assumed were the family of the dead people named Holloway. When turned around the corner, a small sitting area made of stone. She cleared all the cobwebs and as many spiders as she could manage in the little hideaway. The groundskeeper neglected the section of the cemetery since the graves were never a century old. She kneeled down in a sleeping bag and grabbed a pack of matches. A light 3 yellow candles placed off to the side. She dropped her book bag and sat to the sleeping bag and pillow. Here she could let down her guard. No one could see her. No one could judge her. No one could wonder about her at all. She was safe for now. Next to her, she had a duffel bag of her signature black clothes, a small overnight kit, and some makeup, a hairbrush, toothbrush, and toiletries. She kept herself life simple, minimal. She had one small item in her old life. She reached for the bag and took out the white rabbit's foot, and let it dangle from her finger in an old short chain. She used to carry it with her everywhere, thinking it brought her good luck. Now she didn't believe in good luck, but it was a small reminder of who she used to be and who she would never be again. She lay down in a sleeping bag and let herself rest before work. Jessica noticed Nurse May was humming under her breath in the nurse's station while she was performing her mopping duties. It was mindless, really, mindless in a weird kind of way. Weird that it was the theme of her life these days. But what really concerned her was the fatigue that weighed down upon every inch of her body. Her grip on the mop was shaky, even though she moved like a slow pace. She was tired, and it was bone-deep exhaustion that had been becoming more and more frequent each day. She used to have so much strength, and now she often wished the time when pendant had been a whole heart, and she'd been full of energy. The truth was, she'd been busy the last few nights with the patients. She lifted a shaky hand to the pendant that lay under her skirt. It was definitely smaller now, thinner. A tremor of fear vibrated down her spine. She lifted her chin. She could do this, she told herself. With as much strength she could muster, she continued to push them up. To and fro, to and fro. Hi, Jessica. It's a lovely day, isn't it? Nurse Macy mused, a wisp of blonde curl shifting from her forehead as she walked over to her. Nurse Macy always wore scrubs in shades of orange, blue, green, or purple. Sometimes the pattern had funny characters or animal prints. Today there were cats making silly faces on her top. Her smile was welcoming, and even though Jessica did her best to keep her distance, Nurse Macy had his energy that pulled others toward her. Jessica nodded. You want to know why it's a lovely day? Nurse Macy asked. Jessica paused and looked at her expectantly. Most of our patients in this wing have improved in some way, she said with a bright smile. They are eating, even smiling. Most of the times they're heavy sadness that you feel around the floor, but now today is a good day. When these are smiles and meals been eaten, the pain has decreased. It's like magic. In my line of work, you can make the wins when you get them, Jessica. You remember that. Take the wins when you get them. Jessica liked that. She remembered that advice. Nurse Macy gazed into Jessica's eyes. How are you feeling today, Jessica? Jessica looked away. Good. That's nice. Anything new going on in your life? How's school? Jessica's grip tightened on the map. Nothing new. Everything's good. Glad to hear it. Well, duty calls. See you later, Gator. Jessica watched her wave off as another patient. Even though she enjoyed being around Nurse Macy, it was getting harder to avoid her direct questions about her personal life. She suddenly saw the nurse come to a halt right at the middle of the floor. Sheesh, what is going on with all this junk, Jessica? There's an old fork on the floor. Would you mind cleaning it up? Between this and the weird flakes? Dang it, she missed another one. Okay, Jessica answered. Jessica slowly walked in the old fork and picked it up. Fork? Really? She said quietly, and then rolled her eyes and tossed it in the trash. That was when she noticed something new. There was a teenage girl about her age. She was lying in bed, wearing headphones. She had red hair and tiny freckles speckled across her cheek. She suddenly played with the phone in her hand. There was 3 empty Jell-O cups on her side table. Jessica pushed her mop pail closer to the room, and the girl noticed her. Pulled off her headphones. Hey, she said to Jessica. Hi, Jessica said. You work here? Jessica nodded. The girl frowned. Why would you want to spend your free time around sick kids? Because I want to help them. It's a job, she said instead. What's your name? The girl asked. Jessica. I'm April. I was admitted early this morning. I'm not handling my treatment well this time around. You probably see a lot of kids like me around here. Sometimes, she said. Doesn't it bother you being around this? She waved her arm around her. Jessica shook her head. Am I supposed to treat you differently? No, but a lot of people do. You don't know how many times I see the looks of pity or sadness of someone's fear. Like if they were near me long enough, they might get sick too. I don't want to see that in their eyes. They stared at each other for a few moments. Then Jessica said, Gotta get back to work. Okay, you should stop by sometime. I'll be here, unfortunately, eating a lime Jell-O. Jessica nodded and pushed her pail away. I got some springs, wiring, some bolt metal slats. What do you think about this tray? It's an old one, but it's cool, right? Robert said to Jessica as they sat at the lab table in class. Just the right size for the mini robot. Jessica sat quietly looking at the items Robert had apparently salvaged from the junkyard. She wanted to knock all the dirty junk off the table, but instead she sat still like a statue, unmovable and motionless, as if the sight of old garbage didn't bother her at all. You're not saying much, Robert said to her. Jessica met his eyes. He saw curiosity and looked away. Yes, these all will work fine. Gee, great. After another day, I thought maybe I'd done something wrong. Maybe you didn't want to be partners anymore, he shrugged. It's kind of late to find new partners. No, I told you it wasn't feeling well. She unclenched her fist and pointed at the tray. This is just the right size. You did a good job. I know, right? Robert pushed his hair back with his hand. I got excited when I found it. This bio is going to be so cool, Jess. Wait and see. Jessica froze as she heard the old nickname that her closest friends had once called her. She felt a lump form in her throat, and she swallowed hard. She hadn't known how difficult it would be to interact more at school with Robert on this project. It was taking so much willpower to keep her in a seat and not run from it all. Reminding her from the past that bringing her more into the present was not what she wanted. Miss Willenby strolled by the table with her notebook and marked off the progress. Nice, Robert and Jessica. You both are pulling together with your components this time. I like your initiative. She looked over the blueprints that had put together. Looks like your bot is coming together. Good job, you two. Let's see you start to build over the next few days and make some progress. Okay, Robert said with a smile. Jessica nodded.
How do you feel about this project, Jessica? Miss Willoughby asked her directly. Jessica balked. Mrs. Willoughby usually avoided speaking with her. I feel good. It's not going to be good, he repeated awkwardly. How do you like working with Robert? Jessica glanced at Robert and then back at the pieces of the table. Good, he mumbled. He's a good partner. So is Jessica, Robert piped in. So, she's worked really hard in helping me with the design and keeping us on track. I'm glad we're all good then, Miss Willoughby thought, with a small smile. I'll check back on you in a couple of days about your progress. Keep up the hard work. Miss Willoughby walked back to the next table, and Jessica could feel her shoulders relax. Robert rubbed his hands together, excitement lit in his eyes. Let's get started, Jess. Jessica watched Robert set out a few components for the structure of the mini robot. She was very aware that she hadn't yet moved to help. She set out 4 metal slats that they could connect to the framing of the mini-bot. 3 of the metal pieces were obviously old and from the junkyard. 1 piece looked fresh and newly purchased. Go on, pick one up, she told herself, and then she couldn't bring herself to move past her hesitation. These parts were dirty and old, and stunk of rust and grease. They reminded her of things she'd rather forget, and she knew that she couldn't avoid this forever. She couldn't just have Robert do all the work on the mini-robot. That wouldn't be fair. Detachment was her greatest defense. Sometimes she envisioned her feelings as if it was a possum. When a possum felt like it was in danger or threatened, it froze into a catatonic state. Jessica imagined her feelings being just like that. When she was strong, she could manage to shut down her inner feelings until the threat was over. Right now, she was a possum. Her aversion of junk did not affect her. In fact, she was very frozen inside until the threat to her feelings had passed. She slowly reached to the dirty metal slats. She felt the cold steel in her grip. She thought about toward her. She stared at it, turned over to examine the rusted edges. She could touch anything from the junkyard and be okay. It would not harm her to affect her feelings. She set it back down, rubbed her fingers against her plant leg, and exhaled a deep breath. Success. Nurse Macy was checking on Billy's vitals. Color had come back to his cheeks, with the appetite that increased, which in turn gave him more energy. You're doing so well, Billy, she told him. You're eating all your meals like a big boy and taking your medicine? I am a big boy, he declared as he zoomed a toy airplane over her arm. Yes, you are. Hey, Nurse Macy, when will I get to see the angel again? Angel, Nurse Macy asked, with curiosity. Yeah, the angel who helped me feel better. Oh, yeah? How did the angel make you feel better? She came with me at night and I felt better. I'm not sure how she did it, but it must have been magic. I like her. I want to see her again. Wow, that's pretty cool. I must have a guardian angel looking over you, Billy. Billy lifted his little fist up in triumph. Yeah, I have a guardian angel. As he shifted, tiny specks fluttered on his blanket. Nurse Macy spotted the flakes of silver with dismay. What was this stuff? She quickly brushed him off Billy's blanket. Yes, you are a lucky boy. I'll check on you later and bring you some pudding. How does that sound? Yum! Chocolate piece. You got it, she said. I'll be back in a bit. And just then, there was a loud clang from outside Billy's room. Nurse Macy started. What in the world? She walked out of the room. In the center of the hallway she found a piece of car muffler. Frustration coursed through her. This is getting ridiculous. Who's placing these pranks? She spotted Jessica nearby, mopping. Jessica, do you need someone to drop this? Jessica's eyes widened. No. I didn't see anyone else in the hallway. Well, somebody thinks they're funny and they're not, she said with a low loud the culprit could hear. So they better stop. Please, Jessica, grab some gloves and throw this garbage out. I'm trying to keep the clean floor here. If I get a surprise visit from the higher-ups and they find this garbage around, we'll be in big trouble. Jessica nodded and hurried to the janitor's closet. Nurse Macy frowned. She called and checked with the nurses of the other floors. No one else is seeing junk left around in the areas. It's just in the children's wing for some reason. She decided to take a walk around the floor and see if she could spot any more tricks happening from their patient's room. She turned around the corridor, and sure enough, she found a couple greasy bolts. Disgusting. Nurse Macy gritted her teeth. When she found out who was doing this, she was going to give him a good scolding on how dangerous it is to leave the industrial objects on the floor for someone to trip over. Not to mention how unsanitary it was for the sick patients of the hospital. She might even turn them into hospital security to give them a good scare. She slipped on her rubber gloves and stuffed it in her pocket and picked up the bolts, and continued until she found a small rusted can. She swiped that up until she didn't see anyone around. Then she found herself right in front of the hospital chapel. Was the culprit inside, she wondered? She dumped the junk in a nearby trash can along with the dirty gloves and stepped into the peaceful music. There was an old woman sitting in the few pews, but Nurse Mason couldn't find anything that she was a prankster. She stepped further in and walked to the front of the pews, looking around for anyone who might be suspicious. Hello, Father Jeremiah said from behind her. Nurse Macy jumped and put her hand on her chest as she turned. Hello, Father, she said quietly. Sorry, I didn't see you. He lifted his thick eyebrows. How are you today, Nurse Macy? I'm doing well, Father. How are you? I am well. Coming in for a visit. She began to nod, and then her face heated from fib. Well, I'm looking for someone who's been playing some pranks around the children's floor, leaving pieces of guards around. Nothing serious, I hope. It could be, so I need to put a stop to it, and that's what I can't seem to figure out who it is yet. I'm sure you will discover your truth soon enough, she nodded. I hope so, Father. By the way, there's a young girl named April on our floor. It would be nice if you could visit her and put her in your prayers. She could use some cheering up. Thank you for telling me. I will do that. How's your friend Jessica doing? Nurse Macy smiled. Oh, you know Jessica. She's doing okay, I think. She does the job for us. She frowned. I worry about her. So frail, so quiet. Have you been praying for her lately? She visits here often. That's nice, Father. I worry about her, too. She could use a friend, I think. Nurse Macy nodded. I think so. Father Jeremiah smiled. Well, peace be with you, Nurse Macy. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks, Father. Same to you. I hope you discover your prankster. Just remember to go easy on whoever it is. Everyone has a story that we don't know yet. Yes, Father, I'll remember that. Nurse Macy sighed and started to return to work when her foot knocked against something. She bent down to pick it up. She narrowed her eyes at discovery. It was a rusty lock. Jessica sat on a chair at Robert's dad's workshop as Robert soldered some wires into the mini robot. The workshop was pretty neat, she thought. Shelves and labeled boxes lined in one wall. There was a work table that sat against the opposite wall, and another work table in the center that Robert was working on. She stood on the other side of the table wearing goggles. She had felt hesitant to having these next to the meeting at the house, though it was so close, too personal. But Jessica knew they had to work together to get the mini-bot completed. And next step had to be soldering the mini-bot's guts together in the arm, just as they made the tray go up and down. Robert turned out the soldering tool and lifted his goggles. I think I've got it, you know, Jess. We really need to agree on a name for the mini-bot. She lifted her goggles to her forehead. I like calling it mini-bot. Even though Jessica had intended it to be funny, Robert chuckled. Mini-bot? The MB, huh? Yes, we should give it a number, like mini-bot 5000. Robert made a face. Not very original. Robots aren't always original. Sometimes they're just made from boring old junkyard scraps. Heavy sadness suddenly came over Jessica. She clenched her fist. She really thought she'd got over the sadness and pain of her predicament and settled on overall acceptance. But lately, emotions and feeling had been coming back to the weirdest moments. Why now? What had changed? It's not always about where things started from, Jess. It's about where you make all the pieces once you have them. Jessica frowned. My dad told me once. It always stuck with me. Remember, he's an engineer. He always liked creating something out of pieces. Knock, knock, said Robert's mom as she entered the workshop holding a plate of brownies and 2 glasses of milk. I thought you hard-working engineers could use some body fuel. He had honey blonde hair like Robert, and he was shorter and her face softer. Jessica noticed that they had the same welcoming smile. His mom set a tray on the side work table. Thanks, Mom, Robert said. Jessica thought she would say something too. Yes, thank you. I hope you like brownies and milk, Jessica. Do you have any allergies? No, I don't. Good, enjoy them, he said. I look forward to seeing your finished mini robot. Robert's mom left. And Robert grabbed the tray and brought it to the table. He set it down, grabbed a brownie, and took a bite. These are the best, he said with a mouthful. My mom is an awesome baker. Try one. Jessica was hesitant to take one. He watched Robert chew his brownie and then gulp down some milk. Truth was, she used to love brownies. They were her favorite dessert. But she never treated herself anymore. Never allowed herself to enjoy sweets or anything that connected her to her old life. She believed she didn't deserve them anymore. Come on, you know you want one, Robert said to her. Jessica tilted her head to the side. I guess I can have one. Are you not supposed to eat sugar or something? Not really. Jessica reached for a brownie. She could already smell the cocoa and the butter. She took one small bite and closed her eyes. The brownie tasted heavenly. Oh my gosh, that is really good, she murmured, enjoying the sweet treat. I told you, the best. Baking is one of my mom's favorite hobbies. You know, Jess, Robert said, you had have told me much about yourself, about your family. What do your parents do? Jessica blinked. You never asked. Well, I'm not much into sharing, she interrupted her sidestep conversation about family and took another wonderful bite. He smiled. Like I couldn't tell. You're not like other girls. I know. I'm not trying to be conceited. I just know that I'm different. Weird. I wouldn't call you weird. I mean, other girls I've met like to talk about themselves, sometimes too much. Worry that about a lot of drama, you handle things differently, quietly. It's nice. Jessica didn't know what to say. Anyway, he continued on to clear his throat. You know I'm new here and I don't have many friends, yes? And you heard about the prom coming up, yes? She nodded. I'm not a junior. I am. Jessica met his eyes and Robert seemed to blush. He brushed a nervous hand across his hair. I wondered if you would like to go with me. What? To the prom. I thought it would be fun to go together. Jessica stared at him in shock, her brownie half eaten in her hand. She was actually speechless. She worked so hard to separate herself from school and others, to be as invisible as she could make herself, and now she'd met a new boy who strangely didn't think she was weird and wanted to take her to the prom like a normal teenager. "It's in a week," he said, quickly to fill the silence. "Do you think you'll have to work? Maybe you can request it off?" His cheeks reddened. "I mean, if you want to go with me. Unless you already asked. Who asked Zombie Girl? No one asked me." Robert smiled. "Then what do you say, Jess? Would you like to go with me?" That night, Jessica rushed to the hospital chapel. Her heart was beating fast. For the first time in a while, her goal was skewered, as if she couldn't see the finish line anymore, and it didn't feel good at all. She sat down in the first pew and stared off into space. She didn't know what to do. She had left Roberts awkwardly and telling him he had to go find out if she could get the night off. She had let him know, and she'd come straight to the chapel for guidance. She pulled off the pendant over her head and clenched it in her hands, closing her eyes. "Please help me now. What do I do? Please guide me. I never thought this would happen. I made a plan, and now things have changed. I did my best to keep myself to do the right thing, and now everything seems falling apart. Should I pray with you, Jessica?" Father Jeremiah asked beside her. Jessica swallowed. "I don't know. I mean, if you want." Father Jeremiah sat next to her. For a few moments they sat in silence. "I don't know what to do," Jessica finally spoke to Father Jeremiah. She stared down at the pendant. "I always believed that the pendant gave me strength, so that when I worked around the sick children, I could give them piece of it to help them too. I thought that I had found this job for a reason, to help others, to redeem myself of the bad choice I'd made in the past. But now things are changing, and I find myself wondering if it's okay to give to myself again by having some of my own life back. Something normal. I'm not sure if it's okay, though. And the worst part is that I had been certain that it was the right path." "Why do you think you can't give to yourself, Jessica?" "Because of the past." A tremor hesitated through her body. The past, the horrible past. I just didn't make the right choice. I mean, that's how I got here, how I am. I gave up everything, so there had to be a good reason for that, right? And now I'm just asking for a little piece back. Not something so big, really. It's just a little thing for myself. Is it too wrong to ask?" Jessica looked down at her pendant. It was so slim now, barely anything left. She too late to ask for something in return? Did she even deserve to ask? Why didn't she have an answer? Of course not. When you work for others, we have an open receiving as well. If we offer give, we come out with a balance and we make ourselves ill and sad. Giving to others is a great gift, but yes, Jessica, giving back to ourselves is a gift as well. God loves all his children, and he wants everyone to feel happiness and love. Jessica looked at him directly in the eyes for the first time. "Is that really true? How do you know?" Father Jeremiah lifted his eyebrows. "Because I know it in my heart to be true." Father Jeremiah watched Jessica slowly stand and leave, her head bent down in sadness. Poor child, he thought. He wished he could do more to help her, but he knew from experience that he couldn't save everyone. He could only do the best to guide them. He began to rise when he looked at the floor and found a metal circle with spikes and edges. She picked it up, studying the object. Some kind of gear, it seemed. "That's odd," he thought. He frowned and glanced at the door Jessica had exited. Jessica walked back to the children's floor. The lights were lowered in the evening. She could hear the beeps of machines and oxygen blowing air. Well, that was definitely a chapter of a book. Honestly, this is the lesson I can give here. It's probably just love yourself. It's a lesson that seems weird at points. It's like you can say, yes, I do love myself, but, some do, some don't. I personally do. I do love myself, honestly. It's just I don't show it. It's kind of a problem with me, but that's okay. Everyone will one day be the best they can be. It just takes us a while. But yeah, love yourself. If you love yourself too much, love others. Because helping others and helping yourself can equal out to a good future. Or something like that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Hope you enjoyed the poker rap, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!